Hello, Alex. Well, today we have a guest, Alex Hochberger, CEO and founder of Web3 Enabler. Alex, welcome and thanks for joining us on the show today. How are you?
Thanks, Zua. I'm great, and I'm glad to be here, and thanks for having me.
Awesome. Hey, to get things going, I've got a teaser of a question here. Can you share maybe some fun facts about yourself? Something, most folks may not be aware of.
What a good one. So I have a strange hobby. I am a trained actor combatant in the SAFD school, and I perform at festivals and fairs around Florida, sometimes as an actor combatant, sometimes I run a live action game for the participants. So that's my strange hobby.
Wow, that's interesting. So SAFD, what does this stand for?
Society of American Fight Directors.
Yeah.
And I am not a director, but I have been training for a number of years. I did this for some performance. I've done some workshops, SAFD training. I keep meaning to get certified, but as a pure hobbyist, it's sometimes hard to find the hours.
That's pretty cool. I've never heard that one before. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
So my
Nice.
weapons platform of choice is Sword and Shield. So any
Sword and
other
Shield.
SAFD and fighters will know what that means.
Ah, interesting. Okay. Well, that's an interesting fun fact. Thanks for sharing. So, Alex, tell us a little bit more about your journey. So, you are CEO and founder of Web3 Enabler.
Yes.
What has been your journey up on this point? Was maybe a little bit your genesis as well?
Okay, so I started in what is now marketing, digital marketing. At the time was this newfangled field of internet marketing. And I started in this space with a company called creditcards.com. And this was early 2000s. I was the CTO there, and we sold that in 2004. So from there, I kind of launched the rest of my digital marketing journey. We rode the waves of search engine changes, SEM, digital ad space, as it moved from banner ads to what we think of as modern deployment, social media teams. I've run live event teams, run really a whole gamut of marketing. One of my areas of passion has always been enterprise adoption. I've really enjoyed where you take real big enterprise tools and you just have the much bigger impact than you can with a small business. So I had some experience in the Salesforce ecosystem at my last few involvement. And as I got excited about crypto and blockchain, I thought what better way to marry it than to be the blockchain company for Salesforce.
Pretty cool. Wow. That's I like how you connected all of those experiences and brought that into the blockchain world. That's great. And so what does Web3 Enabler do? What problem are you solving?
So, there's a saying in crypto, not your keys, not your crypto, right? And one of the things we like to flip on its head at Web3 Enabler is to say corporations are people too. And it's a kind of flip statement, but one of the things that is the biggest challenge for adoption at the enterprise is that crypto at its core is built around individual ownership, not communal ownership. And to give you an example of what that means, if you have your crypto for spending, let's assume a very simple, peer-to-peer purchasing, and you want to go to a store, it's totally reasonable for that crypto and your private key to live in your phone. And in the event you lose your phone, you lose access to that wallet, and you only keep that wallet, spending money, similar to your real world wallet. I can't do that with a corporate payroll account. Can't live on someone's phone. It has to live in a resource that's owned by the corporation. So one of the things we really focused on is there's so many great use cases in stablecoins and payments that have really been released by this technology, but they're not accessible to the corporate world. The corporate world has spent the last 30 years building CRM and ERP systems to run their business and to gather kind of a full big picture. Yeah, you use a few SaaS tools on the side, but at the core, everything has to integrate. And that was missing. So we launched Web3 Enabler with the idea of taking all the great innovations coming on in the world of blockchain and crypto and Web3 and bring them to the corporate world via the Salesforce ecosystem.
Pretty cool. Great. And is that a trend that you notice? Are there a lot of other players in this niche currently?
So it's a small niche, and it's particularly small in North America. We had no crypto regulations worth anything until this past July. And even the Genius Act's passage, we don't really have the regulations yet, but we have kind of a framework and enough that people are starting to be comfortable working in it. Europe's been a regulation first environment. So on the one hand, they came out earlier with MiCA. On the other hand, adoption is scary in Europe. But where we've seen huge adoption is Africa, the Middle East, Asia, and Latin America. Areas where the banking system is horrible to its consumers and really creates this great opportunity for, the stablecoin ecosystem. One of the challenges is if you're a major brand, you need to be able to document and show with full transparency everything that's going on. And the privacy-centric or phone-centric or browser-centric tradition that crypto's evolved into is not really a natural fit for the corporate world. So tying these kind of crypto transactions back to a very standard framework is kind of our goal here, is to make crypto boring.
That makes sense. That's a good goal to have. Make abstract, there's abstraction, so it's so boring and simple. So stablecoins, which is a very big factor currently in the industry, is there any other factors as well that you see, any other shifts happening, within maybe in the enterprise space as well, or blockchain?
So the analogy I like to use is Velcro. Velcro was created as part of the space program and the Apollo missions, right? You needed a way to keep things secured for manned spaceflight. Velcro is really useful. So I don't mean to take away from any of the innovations that, Bitcoin as, the initial idea of a decentralized blockchain, or Ethereum, the initial idea as a programmable blockchain. Those are two very unique platforms that are out there. But it doesn't change the fact that we now have all this spin-off technology, whether it's Ripple and XRP or Circle and Arc or Solana. We're entering this world where there are now these corporate-friendly, stablecoin-friendly blockchains that are really designed around the moving of money. And as we evolve all these new capabilities, the blockchain is simply a superior technology to the legacy systems we have for financial markets. That doesn't mean that all the innovations of Bitcoin go away or all of the things of a smart contract go away. Those are all great. But right now, there's a very viable use case of we can send money globally in seconds for a fraction of the cost. And that's really enormous for the 6.2 billion people that don't live in the United States and therefore don't live with the global reserve currency. Americans take for granted that you have access to the largest consumer economy with your native currency, and everyone in the world wants dollars. But that's not true if I'm an exporter in Zimbabwe, or I am a exporter to Latin America. My customers may have capital controls, or selling to Eastern Europe. So there's a lot of these scenarios where the banking system is slow, sluggish, and really expensive. If the only FX trade you've ever done is running your credit card on a trip to Europe from America, or maybe going to Canada, you don't appreciate that for real scale transactions, the FX costs and delays are enormous. So that's really why we're looking at global treasury opportunities and everything like that. So it's a really exciting time, and this is a really powerful new technology that is, I believe, the first real use case to spin out of crypto and blockchain.
Yeah.
And to your crypto and blockchain enthusiasts, that doesn't take away from any of the other things that are being innovative and developed. Those things are great. I think the NFT revolution, when not used for JPEGs, but for real world assets, is probably the next big use case to explode. And I think there are so many innovations coming on in the world of crypto and blockchain that are innovative and exciting. And we're going to bring those on-chain realities to businesses. But what's ready to go now is stablecoins.
Yeah. +1 on that. And Alex, what's your take on another disruptor, which a lot of entrepreneurs are also thinking about? Obviously, I love how you summarized the role stablecoins has to play here. Do you think there's any intersection between the problem you're solving using stablecoins and blockchain and AI?
Absolutely. So I've been working with some people in the X402 working group. And so I'm an old school nerd who's been hacking at the HTTP protocol since, we could do it with Telnet on Linux and, putz around those things. Yeah. So I'm not an ARPANET old timer, but I've been at this for a while. One of the things that was really exciting to me with Web 2.0 years ago was taking all those parts of the HTTP spec we had ignored and blowing them out there to create this new, noun verb structure for defining what we're doing. And it's so simplified interactivity. It's really exciting. So I look at what we're doing with stablecoins and AI and X402 and creating this idea that we can now pay for things, make an agreement, negotiate without humans involved within some sort of rails. And one of the things that isn't appreciated is the traditional financing world is very much based upon humans in the loop. Mm-hmm. Not because the technology doesn't work, but the entire legal assumption is that there's a human that will stop the problem. So very little actually is handled at the protocol level. It's handled at the human intervention level. AI needs certainty. I need to know that I've paid or not paid. I need to know that I've been paid. And blockchain offers that certainty. And that's just the first step. Where I think it's really exciting is the blockchain really creates what I like to call this like shared cloud 2.0. The data is all out there. The data is all available. Anyone can index it and build off of it. And AI is really all about data. If you've ever built an artificial intelligence system, and I don't just mean playing with a GPT on ChatGPT, I mean, configured a neural net or set up any sort of a large language model and actually like study the theory behind it. One of the governing theories of AI and large language models, as well as machine learning, is this idea that with enough data, the algorithm is unimportant. You just trust the data. You no longer need to figure out an algorithm, it self-learns. And the hardware is finally caught up, so that's exciting. But at its core is data. And blockchain creates an immutable shared sense of knowledge that is always true. The web has had a problem for decades of link rot, right? I have a URI that references a web page. I can go to that URL and read it. And today the web page exists, and tomorrow it's updated, and the next day it's gone. Right? And the domain isn't renewed, or someone posts to a new host, or however the link stops working. That piece of knowledge is now gone. Now, we don't think really all that much of some corporate, public relations piece as a piece of knowledge. But ultimately, if you want artificial intelligence to have access to the human's knowledge supply, the knowledge needs to be immutable, right? And that doesn't mean it doesn't change, but I need to be able to know what was known about the Manhattan Project on December 29th, 2025. And if that changes in February, that's fine. I can read both. And I might need to know the most recent, but I also have a history that's always readable. And my AI can read that and it can go and interpret that. And that's critical to artificial intelligence going beyond chatbots, right? Like, it's fascinating what we've built, and let's not pretend we have any workflows that AI hasn't touched. But data and knowledge and truth is at the core of artificial intelligence.
I really like what you described there with regards to chain of events, a very credible ledger or source of, snapshots of things that, you always have access to that. Interesting. Cool. So Alex, you run Web3 Enabler. Just for context, Web3 Enabler, how long have you been launched? Have you been live?
Okay, so the company's about a year old now. About 2 years ago, we were what we called a Skunkworks project at Mutual Knowledge Systems, which was a blockchain research and consultancy group. And we were just kind of playing around, and we got our Salesforce ISV, and we threw a very rudimentary proof of concept in. as kind of the market changed and we decided to build a business around Web3 Enabler, we went and raised some capital independently, spun out into its own company. That was a process to do that. And so we're about a year old. We were formed the end of 2024. And we really have kind of hit MVP status in the last couple of months.
Okay.
And
Excellent.
It's a really exciting time.
Congratulations. Yeah, that's great.
Thank you.
It's a stage. It's so many phases to it, right? And I'm just curious, what is that like for you now in terms of your day to day as, running this business? What is your typical day like? And I don't want to hear, what kind of coffee or tea you're having. I don't know if you're a coffee or tea guy, but just paint us a little bit of a picture. What's a typical day like in your day as CEO and founder?
I would jokingly say it's meetings followed by more meetings, right? But a lot of, what are the big problems we're tackling as a very small business where you wear all the hats, right? So sometimes it's, trying to get our website up to date because websites tend to lag what we put out on social media. But people, especially in the enterprise, go to your website to really understand what you're doing.
Yeah.
So usually a couple days a week, I'm involved in one of the product meetings where we're just kind of reviewing our updates. We have a lot of new add-ons going out into the App Exchange. They'll be entering security review by year end and hopefully be live in January. And that's really completing out our, base MVP. So that's really exciting. And then the next is a lot of it is getting our use cases and features really locked down how to show people and create video, because what we basically do is we wrap all the world's Web3 tools that make sense for businesses and we plug them in with an easy to use UI. So if I want to create a corporate overseas payroll account for paying my contractors overseas, right? I can spin up a wallet that behind the scenes is a Circle programmable wallet, but I don't care about that. I just know that I chose a all blockchains or a gasless wallet. I choose a gasless wallet, right? I can now move money on to that wallet, which if you're in the US, Europe, Mexico, or Brazil, you can instantaneously on-ramp using Bridge and Stripes rails. If you then want to send people it, we have a Lightning Web component that lets you send money to your vendors directly in Salesforce. And the way it's built is on top of Salesforce standard data. Now, if you've never worked with Salesforce at a technical level, it's a beautiful wrapper on an underlying database. So you can programmatically talk to it. You can do this with its native Apex and Salesforce flows, or you could use it with a third party like Zapier or N8N. But you can create an outgoing transaction now, and when it's marked approved or ready to send, it will go and send that transaction. So we have made this all programmable in a smart contract sense, in a corporate automation sense, that your existing corporate automation tools can automate your payments and tracking, and everything's logged, including who did it. So if Zua creates it and Alex approves it, you'll see that Zoo is the creator and it's last modified by Alex. And then you'll see that the transmission was went and sent, and then you can go and see the transaction on the blockchain.
How large is the team currently?
We're about 5 people, maybe 7. There's a couple of people that are from our parent spin out of Mutual Knowledge and Moon. There's a couple of people that are working on 2 or 3 of those projects that spun out. Zoe, great part of our team. She does our blockchain grant applications and community relations. She does so for 2 of the spinoffs. So, is she on the team? Is she half on the team? Things like that, right? Like we have a couple of those sort of situations.
Makes sense. And so for you, you mentioned earlier, as a CEO, especially as you grow, you do have to wear many hats, right? And so what part of the business are you spending most of your time in? Would it say in terms of, is it more on the execution side of things? For example, even with the treasury management example you gave, like integration with Bridge. Bridge, actually, I just discovered them, a few months ago, and they're actually a great abstraction layer for people who want to, leverage a lot of stable coins as well. But are you mostly spending your time on? Is it more in the execution? Are you more in terms of obviously meetings? Are you meeting more stakeholder management side of things, or maybe all of the above? I'm curious.
Where am I really focused? So I'm a trained software engineer with decades of experience on the technical side. So I remain our primary architect, but I'm less involved in the day-to-day on that.
Okay.
With my background in, web marketing, social media marketing, and all of that, I really also wear the chief marketing officer hat here.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a webmaster who handles the actual day-to-day web. We use a lot of AI tools for speeding up process, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And so we do that. And then a good chunk of it beyond that is LinkedIn outreach into the Salesforce community to make Salesforce people aware. We also travel to Salesforce events. We were in Africa for an event in Ghana a few weeks back. I was in New York for World Tour. I'll be up in about 2 weeks. I'll be in Boston, and Hughes on my team will be in Cairo as we meet with the Salesforce community and let people know what's going on in the world of blockchain, Web3, crypto, and Salesforce. And it's a lot of education. They don't realize this is possible. If you're a normie and you haven't played with this, I think people in the tech bubble overestimate how much people know. Most people have kind of heard about Bitcoin a little bit, maybe heard there's something called Ethereum or XRP, and AI. They've used ChatGPT and they've seen silly AI meme videos on Facebook. That is where most people are at for the last, 15 years of tech evolution.
In terms of exposure and knowledge of what's, Yeah, so I love this. I was just smiling when you're saying this. The education work, the average knowledge of blockchain, even AI, is very, compared to the average person in tech, is still very low, right? So there's a lot of awareness in terms of the technology and capabilities. And I love how far traveled you are as well.
And I will tell you, so like one of the examples we've done is, like I said, in wrapping that technology, right? So the idea of you send one ACH or wire and get your crypto and you can go pay everyone out, that's pretty straightforward. Mm-hmm. Swaps, we'll add that in a future version, but it's really hard. We have to make sure we get the UI right? The idea that I can swap USDC on Base for USDT on Tron is very obvious to those of us used to the crypto world, not so obvious that these are a thing. So it's really making sure people turn on we have a full feature set, right? Read-only wallets, mark-to-market, real-time. This is there, but it's not necessarily what most people need to use, right? Yeah. We have one client, very simple. He has a couple of clients in Eastern Europe that want to pay him in USDT on Tron. So he doesn't want to handle crypto. So KYC'd his company, helped him set up his liquidation address, and sends the billing information and requests over to the people paying him. And when they pay him, the data comes into Salesforce. It's automatically going to be off-ramped the next day into his bank account. He knows it's coming via ACH or wire based on whether what setting he has, and he doesn't have to worry about the details. Now, does he pay an off-ramp to do that? Absolutely. Will he always do that? Probably not. He'll find a couple of people that are happy to pay him to get paid in crypto. And he'll say, well, can I save this off-ramping fee? And the answer is going to be, of course. So now set up a crypto wallet. Software, create the wallet, and switch the payment from the auto off-ramp to your actual wallet. Great. Now I can get paid. Or, set up a USDT to USDC bridge, which is still cheaper than off-ramping. Yeah. And you can swap and have that right in your wallet. Or I'm really excited. We've been talking with Tether recently. We're really excited for USAT.
Okay.
Tether's USA Genius Act compliant coin. Now, they work with intermediaries, but they know they're entering a market that's Circle's market, and they know they need to be API driven now. So I look forward to a world where, sure, the rest of the globe may be using USDT, but I look forward to click a button or just automatically set up the bridging that Tron comes into my wallet in the US and gets swapped over to USAT on Solana. Right. And now I'm ready to go. And if I want to pay you, you're going to do the reverse, right? You're going to get paid in USAT on Solana, and you're going to swap it over to USDT.
Yeah.
And all this will be seamless and not bother anyone. We're looking forward. We're rolling out Circle's CCTP, cross-chain transfer protocol. That's a neat one. If you have USDC on Solana and you want to have it on Base or Ethereum, it automatically handles the destroying and minting of it, very API driven. So we can just set up a couple of things on your screen that you can go and just move it from network to network.
Amazing. Yeah.
And right. And our thing is all about the logging and reporting, right?
Mhm.
So you're going to see a transfer of your USDC from Solana to Base, but it's not on chain. So we are now going to bring an off-chain transaction because it's handled behind the scenes by Circle's Mint.
Mhm.
So you're going to, but your accountant still needs to show that money movement, right? Because I did sell USDC on Solana and I bought USDC on Base.
Base, yeah.
And that just needs to be easily imported into the general ledger. So we've done some preliminary work with integrations with QuickBooks, Xero, and Sage. We've tied in with the authentication. You know, we're sitting there designing what the journal entries look like to make this all work. But really, we don't roll out a feature until we can make it stupid simple and corporate friendly.
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah, that's great. Alex, I was just curious as well. Every business has their areas where probably their strengths and also their weaknesses. If there was one thing that you could do differently, I know it's still early on, but if there's one thing that you maybe a wish you could make today, what would that be of a Web3 enabler?
You know, it's definitely a roller coaster, and it's definitely been a challenge to get here, right? Because we got buy-in and support from a bunch of really great companies, but I now have to sell a lot of small and medium businesses on it. So I wish we had invested earlier on the resources in the video side of getting these kind of explainer videos and kind of use cases out. We built a lot of video content during our crowd raise a year ago, and we were planning to do another one in the after the new year. So, you know, I look forward to creating a lot more content there, but it's really about creating the content.
I see. Educational, again, comes down to this awareness piece, right? For small, medium businesses. Okay. And what keeps you up at night? Again, as a CEO and founder.
I guess the biggest risk for us is, you know, Salesforce and the AI revolution and how that looks. Business is undergoing a transformation. I think the agentic transformation is both real and not. I think the doomsdayers are crazy, but I do think we're in for some very transitional years. I was in high school in middle school, I guess, during the 90s recession and then the internet era. And I worked with a lot of people that were, you know, middle age in the 2000s finding themselves. And these were people that were used to having a secretary that handled their call, that were now living in a world of, at the time, BlackBerries and now cell phones and email. And I think it's very easy for those of us that use the tech to not appreciate that there are people whose assumptions about the world were ripped out from under them. Imagine if you were a Madison Avenue ad creator and all of a sudden watch the big three networks collapse the digital cable, and then almost as soon as you got a handle on that change, collapse over to micro-targeted social media video, right? The video and storytelling is the same, but I mean, I work with some of these guys, right? And it's a huge difference between I create a Super Bowl ad and that is going to be for the entire country, and I need to create 10 slightly different versions of the same ad to reach our 10 different audiences. And I need to create iterative versions to go and test. It is a very difficult process for those that aren't used to it. So the AI-driven world, you know, it starts with simple stuff, right? Ask AI before you do a Google search. You know, right? Let the AI crunch the first 10 pages on Google, not you. Right? Have you considered, okay, I write the bullet points of what I want and let it generate the prose. Can I configure a GPT to generate what I want? You know, not look like, you know, the stupid M-filled AI text, but, you know, I got sent a giant document. Can I get a summary before I start reading if that helps me? right? There's a topic I don't know anything about, and I throw Chat GPT or Gemini into an education mode, and I'll just sit there in my car going for a walk and just exploring some new piece of technology I don't understand. And at the end of it, I do. But like, if you don't think to do that, the world just looks very scary right now.
And some people say that history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes, right? So yeah, on the right side of change, right? That's important. Yeah. And Alex, so maybe just to wrap things up, you've shared a lot of insightful, gems here on this session so far. Maybe just one more from you as well. What is one advice? Because this is Web3 Enabler is not your first gig. It's not your first rodeo. I'm curious, what advice would you have for folks who are starting early stage founders, when it comes to their business, scaling their business, and other hurdles that they may come across?
So what I would say is, as you're looking at role models and people whose behavior you want to model, make sure you're doing a like-to-like comparison.
What do you mean by that?
So if you look at my personal Instagram, we jokingly say it's the Miami Tech Playboy. You'll see me out at events in Miami. Everything is fabulous. You'll see from old marketing roles. You'll see me with celebrities. You'll see my kids when they win awards. In an ideal world, that's my life all the time. In reality, that's not, right? And there's a whole lot you don't see, right? You see that modeled behavior. But what I'll also say is there's a couple of different paths to founding a startup. And make sure you're talking to the right people. Because much is made of the elite education, and that's a different world, and that's true. But that's a specific pipeline for young 20-somethings that is in there, right? So, if you're myself, my undergrad's from MIT, my graduate degree in business is from Duke, right? But I'm not one of those guys heading out to Y Combinator. I'm married, have kids, live in the suburbs, have a whole life behind me, right? So when people in one of the accelerators here were getting flustered that I was able to raise a friends and family round much faster than them, they're like, oh, how did you do it? And I looked at one of them and I'm like, because I'm 20 years older than you. And he looked at me all confused. And I said, I can call my friends that are real estate investors and tell them the story of I need to raise a friends and family round, even though we built the product. And I can get a bunch of friends to throw 10 grand and we get a friends and family round done. You can't do that if your friends are in their first jobs and eating ramen noodles and you're living 4 to an apartment in New York, right?
Yeah.
You don't have those friends, right? I do, but I didn't 20 years ago. So if that's where you're at, the early stage VCs, the Y Combinators of the world, the accelerators, that makes a lot of sense to put you in touch with those people. If you're more mid-career, it might make sense to start on the side and bootstrap and get to a certain point. And maybe it's not worth raising funds. Maybe if you're further along, there's more flexibility to it. It's much easier if when times are tight, you can just wire funds into the company than when you don't have them. Right? So I think as your founder's journey goes and it hits bumps, know who you are, know who you're talking to, and making sure you're not following the advice that's for someone else.
Golden. I like that. Thank you very much, Alex. Hey, thanks for having you on the show.